Have you ever noticed how some people command a room without uttering a single word? Their presence is a force, unapologetic, magnetic, almost predatory in its quiet dominance. They don't ask for respect, they take it. And yet, there are others, perhaps you've been among them, who shrink into politeness, smoothing edges, softening blows, hoping that kindness alone will carve out their place in the world. But here's the brutal truth the universe won't whisper gently. There are moments when courtesy is a leash, and the only way to break free is to bare your teeth. This is the shadowed wisdom of Machiavelli, not the caricature of ruthless villainy, but the unflinching realist who understood power as a dance between illusion and force. To never be polite in certain situations isn't about cruelty, it's about survival. It's about recognizing that the world is not a banquet where manners guarantee you a seat. It's a battlefield where hesitation can cost you everything. Think of the wolf that licks its wounds in silence but snaps when cornered, or the serpent that strikes without ceremony when threatened. Nature does not apologize for its instincts, and neither should you. Yet, we've been conditioned to equate politeness with virtue, as if self-erasure is nobility. We smile when we should snarl, yield when we should stand, and in doing so, we surrender invisible territories of power. But what if I told you that beneath the surface of every interaction lies a hidden calculus? One where deference can be exploited and silence mistaken for weakness. The cosmos operates on laws of tension and balance, and sometimes, the only way to restore equilibrium is to shatter the illusion of civility. This is not a call to abandon decency, but to wield it with precision, to know when the armor of politeness becomes a cage. Machiavelli's genius was in mapping these thresholds, the moments when the rules of the game shift, and the polite are left behind. So let us step into the shadows together, where the unspoken rules of power are etched in fire and blood. The question is, are you ready to see them? At the heart of Machiavelli's philosophy lies a truth so stark it feels like a blade pressed against the throat. Power does not negotiate, it imposes. And in that imposition, there are moments when politeness is not just ineffective, it is self-sabotage. The core of this idea is not about indiscriminate aggression, but about the precise, surgical removal of hesitation when the situation demands it. Imagine a lion in the savannah. It does not bow before the gazelle. It does not ask permission to hunt. It acts because the laws of its world permit no alternative. So too must we recognize the 5 situations where courtesy becomes complicity, where the velvet glove must be shed to reveal the iron beneath. The first is when boundaries are tested. There exists a breed of people who interpret kindness as an invitation to encroach, who see politeness as a green light to push further. In these moments, a single sharp refusal does more than a lifetime of patient explanations. Machiavelli understood that power is a language, and hesitation is a stutter, an opening for those who would dominate. The second is when respect is demanded, not requested. Authority does not plead, it declares. Whether in a boardroom or a battlefield, the moment you justify your position instead of asserting it, you have already lost. The third is when deception wears the mask of diplomacy. The world is full of wolves in sheep's clothing, and to engage them with politeness is to hand them the knife they will later use against you. The fourth is when survival is at stake, not just physically, but socially, professionally, existentially. There are arenas where the rules are unwritten but enforced with brutal clarity, and to play the polite novice is to be devoured by those who know the game. The fifth, and perhaps most subtle, is when the illusion of harmony must be shattered. Societies, organizations, even relationships often sustain themselves on unspoken lies, and the one who speaks the uncomfortable truth, bluntly, without apology, becomes the architect of a new reality. These are not random acts of defiance, but calculated breaches in the facade of civility, moments where the raw mechanics of power are laid bare. Underneath these themes runs a deeper current. The understanding that power is not just taken, but perceived. Machiavelli's genius was in recognizing that human beings are creatures of symbol and signal, and that sometimes, the refusal to be polite is not an act of rudeness, but a deliberate recalibration of how others see you. The universe does not reward the meek. It rewards those who know when to drop the mask. History whispers its lessons through allegory, and if we listen closely, we hear the same truth echoing across time. Those who mistake politeness for power inevitably become footnotes in someone else's story. Consider the ancient tale of the scorpion and the frog, a parable that cuts to the bone of human nature. The scorpion, poised on the riverbank, asks the frog for passage across the water. The frog hesitates, knowing the scorpion's nature, but relents when appealed to with honeyed words. Midway across, the fatal sting comes, and as they both sink, the scorpion's chilling justification, "I couldn't help it, it's my nature," reveals the fatal flaw in the frog's politeness. This isn't merely a warning about trust, but a devastating commentary on the price of ignoring primal truths for the sake of courtesy. Corporate world offers its own modern mythology in the rise and fall of the agreeable executive. Picture a brilliant strategist who climbs the ladder through competence alone, never learning the art of strategic confrontation. When the boardroom coup comes, their polite silence becomes the weapon used against them, their previous accommodations now framed as weaknesses. Meanwhile, their less capable but more assertive rival, the one who knew when to interrupt, when to refuse, when to let their displeasure show, inherits the corner office. This isn't about fairness. It's about the unspoken hierarchy that exists beneath every organizational chart, where the ability to wield discomfort like a scalpel often outweighs raw talent. On a grander scale, we might examine the geopolitical theater, where nations that confuse diplomatic niceties with actual power find their interests slowly eroded. The 20th century's most pivotal moments weren't decided in tea rooms but in moments of calculated ruthlessness. Churchill's refusal to negotiate with Hitler, Truman's atomic decision, Reagan's tear down this wall challenge. Each instance reveals the same underlying principle. There are thresholds where politeness becomes surrender, where the preservation of self demands the abandonment of decorum. Even nature herself teaches this lesson daily. The rose grows thorns not out of malice, but because the world contains creatures that would destroy it otherwise. These narratives converge on an uncomfortable truth. Civilization's veneer is thin, and beneath it pulses the same raw dynamics that have governed life since the first predator and prey circled each other in primordial waters. The symbols surround us, the clenched fist hidden in the velvet glove, the unblinking stare that replaces the conciliatory smile, the moment when the negotiator becomes the conqueror. To understand when politeness must be discarded is to understand the difference between playing the game and being played by it. The true test of Machiavellian wisdom lies not in understanding these principles abstractly, but in recognizing their precise application in the theater of daily life. Consider the job candidate who politely accepts every term of an exploitative offer when a single firm counterproposal could have reshaped their entire career trajectory. Or the talented employee who quietly endures credit theft for their ideas, their politeness becoming complicity in their own marginalization. These are not hypothetical scenarios but lived tragedies repeating themselves in offices, relationships, and power dynamics across the world. The practical integration begins with developing what ancient warriors called the eye of the storm, that calm center where one can discern when the social contract has been voided by the other party, when the rules of engagement have silently shifted from cooperation to competition. In real-world terms, this manifests as the ability to weaponize discomfort strategically. When a colleague repeatedly interrupts you in meetings, the solution isn't private complaints to HR but a single, sharply delivered "I wasn't finished" that recalibrates the power dynamic instantly. When negotiating, it's understanding that the first person to break the silence often loses leverage, that polite eagerness can be as damaging as incompetence. The business magnate who built an empire on ruthless deals didn't win because they were smarter, but because they understood when to stop being agreeable. Even in personal relationships, the partner who tolerates disrespect under the guise of keeping peace eventually finds their dignity eroded one compromise at a time. These are not moments for cruelty, but for the precise, surgical application of unapologetic self-preservation. The transformational call here is not to become heartless, but to develop what might be called strategic emotional sovereignty. This is the ability to detach from the addictive drug of being liked, to recognize that respect often wears the face of fear, and that true power lies in controlling when and how you reveal your boundaries. The modern world has conditioned us to fear conflict, to pathologize assertiveness, to medicate our natural aggression into submission. But the individuals who shape history, whether in politics, business, or social movements, all share this common thread. They knew when to stop negotiating and start imposing reality. Your metamorphosis begins the day you realize that politeness is a currency, not a virtue, and like any currency, its value fluctuates based on circumstance. The final revelation? You've been negotiating with life when you should have been commanding it. The cosmic joke is that the universe respects only those who respect themselves first. Machiavelli's true lesson wasn't about manipulation, but about the courage to see the world as it is rather than as we wish it to be. Now the question remains, having seen the hidden architecture of power, will you continue to play the polite guest at life's banquet, or will you finally claim your seat at the head of the table? The choice, as always, is yours, but choose wisely, for the world belongs to those willing to take it.